Good evening on a late Thursday night episode of the Illini cast. I have some somber news for everyone. I hate to start it off this way, but Michigan basketball has just lost once again to what arguably is the worst team in the Big Ten, in the Minnesota Gophers, and I'm now officially worried on whether Juwan Howard survives long enough to make it to January 18th. Because there's nothing I want more than for Juwan Howard to be on that Michigan bench and to send him home 0-7 against Brad Underwood. But now, I was hoping they could win this game tonight. It buy them some breathing room. Juwan seemed to have been on the hot seat a couple weeks ago with whatever X amount of altercations he's had now. But they lose today. I think they're like 2-14 in last minute, last possession games or something like that. Just all time. And we're talking like Scott Frost level ineptitude, particularly late in the game. But that's unfortunate news. And otherwise, what we're going to talk about today is the Purdue and Illinois game. Tomorrow, it's Friday night, 7:30 local time on Fox. A lot of people are calling it the Big Ten Game of the Year. I can kind of understand the hype on it. If you do any research on YouTube, you're going to be seeing basically every national media hyping up this game. The Sleepers have done a preview on it. A lot of folks have. And why? It's because Purdue basketball fans and Illinois basketball fans are a pretty rabid bunch. And I just want to give it up to Purdue fans. I've always considered Illinois to have arguably the most obnoxious fans, basketball-wise, on the internet. I see some of the posts that some folks make, and I'm just like, I just kind of cringe. And it is who we are, though. I can't hate my own people, but there is a certain sense of, I don't know, us wanting attention. Seemingly kind of needy that has turned a lot of people off because a lot of other teams just think of the John Gross era, and where we were kind of at the bottom tier of the Big Ten, kind of forgotten about. Since 1985, we've got the 20th most wins in NCAA basketball history. We are a good program. It's just been been a while, and now that Brad Underwood's brought us back, our fan base is kind of finding the energy to get excited again. We're not really a football school. We are a basketball school. We care about basketball. We're a passionate bunch. Now, having said that, in my last 48 hours, I think Purdue has far surpassed us when it comes to just obnoxious, completely entitled fan base when it comes to Twitter. And I don't mind Purdue. My brother attended his undergrad there. I have a great deal of respect for Matt Painter. I think he's the best coach in the Big Ten, top 3 coach in the entire country. But the way these Purdue Boilermakers tweet on social media make it sound like we are talking to Duke. We're talking to Kansas, like they're North Carolina. I'm not sure where this sense of elitism comes from, but someone needs to, you would think they're humbly reminded enough that the last 3 years they've lost to a 13 seed, a 15 seed, and a 16 seed. But I don't know, for whatever reason, it's not registering. I'm seeing memes being dropped that, again, that would come from a team that's won 2 national championships in the last 5 years, not one that has really been underperforming for the most part. So, shout out to Purdue fans. You've, at least off the basketball court, you've certainly taken over the Illini fan base, at least in my opinion. I'm just awful people, just weirdos. I don't get it. Like, I don't know what it is about Purdue basketball, but you guys are super passionate. And again, I want to be very clear. I was on the Big Ten Huddle basketball show last night where we kind of discussed Illinois basketball and Purdue basketball. And obviously, we have a sister podcast with the Boiler Express, where I get along great with those guys. This has nothing to do with them. I had a gentleman named Russell from the Boiler Express who tweeted correcting me on my I misspoke on a particular stat last night. I have no problems with that. That was awesome discourse back and forth. Everything went along fine. But everything else I'm seeing on Twitter, and I'm not the type to disclose my DM, so it is what it is. But it's just I don't quite understand where you guys get this energy. I wish, it is what it is. That's fine. I'm here to kind of talk about the game. I did want to mention, though, that Big Ten Huddle episode that I was on yesterday where we discussed Illinois Purdue. I think it's gotten like 4 or 5 times the amount of viewers that the average basketball Big Ten Huddle episode gets. So, again, that kind of proves my point in the sense where, we may not be much when it comes to the football field, but when it comes to basketball, our two fan bases are super passionate. We really care. And, it's, I don't know, none of these two teams have really done much on the courts compared to the way we talk. But it is what it is. Tomorrow's the matchup, the official matchup between Purdue, the number 1 team in the country, and I think by a pretty decent margin, and Illinois, who might be the hottest team. I might be the hottest team in the country right now, especially with 3 super impressive wins in a row, 2 of them without our best player, Terrence Shannon. And it's here's a breakdown, okay? And this is going to make a couple people angry, but if Terrence was in this game, I think legitimately my hot take was that we would go into West Lafayette. We would go into Mackey Arena, which is, many regard as the toughest place to play in the conference, if not the country. And I genuinely think that we could have snuck out with a win. Without Terrence, I don't think that's going to happen. I do think ultimately Purdue's going to win. And let me just kind of talk about how I see the game. Again, this is not going to make people happy. Just let's get it out of the way. Well, this is what we know is going to happen tomorrow night. Zach Edey's going to have 27, 28 points. He's going to have 12 plus rebounds. He's going to have 1 foul. That's just a typical Zach Edey games. He's been in the league long enough where the complaining doesn't help. He is refereed in a certain way. Purdue fans don't want to acknowledge it, and they compare this to the Kofi situation. But one of the frustrating things about watching Kofi in an Illini uniform was that as good as he was and as big and strong as he was, he would get himself into foul trouble. And once he did that, we were in a position where we'd have to rely on Georgie, or we would be at a severe disadvantage. Purdue never seems to have that problem. Now, if you ask them, they have discovered some secret game plan that only they know about, Matt Painter, the genius, where they figured out a game plan where one of the most physical centers in the country never picks up a foul, and that's just their strategy, which honestly is a pretty good strategy, and more coaches around the country should look into it. Now, they'll tell you, watch the game and see how many times Zach Edey's hacked, how many scratches he gets. There's no one in the league, in the country, fouled more than Zach Edey. And you know what? You're probably right. I'm agreeing with you. Purdue fans, I'm agreeing with you. Now, follow me here. With that being the case, watch that same game. Look at that same box score. The guys that Zach Edey was going up against, they probably had 4 fouls that game. There was probably 3 or 4 guys that Zach Edey went up against who all had 3, 4, and 1 guy probably fouled out. That same physicality is happening on the other end. And somehow, again, the Boilermakers, Matt Painter has figured out some sort of game plan where Zach Edey doesn't get any of the fouls. Again, 1, 2 fouls per game. It is what it is. And it's going to happen tomorrow, guys. It's absolutely going to happen tomorrow. Zach Edey's going to end up with 27 points, 13 rebounds, a couple blocks. He's going to hit 80% of his free throws. It is what it is. Fine. So be it. We know on our side that we're going to be ready. I don't know what that means, but what I think this game is going to come down to is the way we guard what many have considered our weakness. And, Marquette kind of exploited it. The little guys, the little guards. How are we going to guard Braden Smith? And how are we going to guard Lance Jones? Lance Jones is 6'1". Braden Smith, I think, is 6 foot tall. These little guys, kind of give me flashbacks of Kolek from Marquette, who, for the most part, dominated us. But we're a much different team from the team that played Marquette in Champaign earlier in the season. Ty Rodgers, for some reason, I have a feeling this is going to be a Ty Rodgers game. I can't explain what it is. I think right now we're just much better coached. I think that the fact that our lineup is so much bigger than theirs, it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I'm going to keep rehashing this, but I really think that tomorrow's going to be a fun game to watch because, we can't guard Edey. We're not that weird. Even if we were allowed to guard Edey, we can't guard Edey. He's simply the most unguardable player in the country now, especially with that size, with that skill. And yes, Purdue fans, I'm telling you, I'm not one of the other fan base guys saying that he's only skilled because he's big. No, he's a very skilled player. He is what he is. But what I'm interested in seeing is the chess match that's going to go on with Brad Underwood, because who's Zach Edey going to be guarding when he's on the defensive end? When you talk about the bigs that Illinois has, the style of play that we've had over the last 7-8 games, I'm not sure that they're going to have just as much trouble guarding our offense as we are going to have guarding Zach Edey. Coleman Hawkins, especially if he continues to shoot the way he's shooting, if he can hang out in the perimeter, that allows Damask, that allows the aforementioned Ty Rodgers to do the booty ball that they've been doing very successfully over the past couple games now. And, at that case, there's no better team right now in the country than Illinois in finding the switch, to find the weak link in the opposing defense and just taking advantage of it, making the switch, getting your worst guy on Damask. Damask, his mid-range game reminds me of, DeMar DeRozan. There's no one more automatic in the country right now from 10 to 17 feet than Marcus Damask. Now, is he going to come out and score 30 again on Friday night? I don't think so. I think that's very wishful thinking. But if he can kind of just be the catalyst, and if our other guys are making their open jump shots, again, that makes Edey vulnerable on defense. And so how does Purdue match that? Ultimately, I think this game's going to come down to how we defend those two guards that I mentioned earlier. Lance Jones, Braden Smith. Those guys are super skillful. They're really good. They're veteran players. And if they have a successful game, I think Purdue wins. I'm telling you, Zach Edey could come out with 35 points, 17 rebounds, X amount of assists, blocks, all that. But Illinois can still win the game, because I don't think Illinois is really even game planning for Edey. I think they're just going to let him get what they get. They're just going to hope that our guys don't foul out. This might be a Dane game. You're talking about a guy who might just set the record of lack of minutes before someone fouls out. This could be just danger, just to put a body on Edey for a little while, just because the other guys are in foul trouble. Hopefully not, but we'll find out. But again, the point is, let Edey get whatever crazy monster numbers that he's going to get. I want to see what the surrounding cast does, because Illinois is a damn good defensive team. We're great at switching. Ty Rodgers, we're going to miss Shannon here a little bit, because I think I've said this before. Terrence Shannon and Ty Rodgers were just having those two wings just switching and the amount of speed and athleticism the two had, it was a cheat code on defense. And one of the leading causes of why we were as successful as we were. But now I want to see how we handle these two guards on the Purdue side. The good thing is Purdue, I don't know if Purdue knows how to guard us right now, because the more I think about the X's and O's, I don't know how I would game plan guarding Illinois' offense at this moment, because you really don't know who's going to catch fire. If Quincy Guerrier continues I think he's averaging like 19 points a game over his last 5 games. Marcus Domask, what more do I need to say about his effort the last couple of games? Coleman Hawkins, as I said, he's making his 3-pointers. You don't know where the offense is coming from Illinois. And that's kind of what's making us so dangerous right now. We set the record, our record for points per possession in that last game, or at least I think it was the highest point, 1.44 points per possession, which was the highest total, I think, since 2005. And this is not just me saying it. Again, this is like national media saying this. Like, Illinois right now is one of the most fun offensive teams to watch right now. And it's absolutely right. It's we've come a far away from the beginning of the season, where it seemed like we were struggling for points, and we were hoping that Terrence would, put his head down and charge to the rim, and that was our offense. Not anymore. The fact that Brad Underwood has been, our team is full of 23 and 24-year-olds. They seem to have figured something out on offense, whatever system that they're using now, and it's like everyone's scoring points from different ways. Damask, he was shooting threes before, they weren't falling. So what's he doing now? He's stepping a couple feet in, and those shots are falling. He was 11 for 15 against Northwestern the other night. All the other, like Coleman Hawkins, he seems to be healthy now, and as long as he can somewhat contribute on the offensive side, that's great. If he can stretch out Edey, make Edey vulnerable on the defensive side of Purdue, that's all we ask of him. Where Coleman's, efforts are truly appreciated is on the defensive side. The way that guy changes an opposing team's game plan, it's you can count on one hand the amount of players that have the defensive impact that Coleman Hawkins does, especially now that he's healthy. You can see it. You can see him more confident. There was a bunch of plays in the last game which were tweeted out about like Boo Buie trying to take Coleman Hawkins one-on-one, and I think it was Derek Piper tweeted out like, how many fives can go up one-on-one against Boo Buie and win that battle, and that's exactly what he did, because that's what he does. He's a very talented defensive player, and it's nice to see. He's one of the main reasons. It's Coleman Hawkins and Quincy Guerrier, their performance over the last, I think it's 7 games, that has kind of led to this resurgence of what started off looking like a good team to what it's now a lot of people are saying is a sleepy Final Four contender. Now, ultimately, what do I think is going to happen in this game? Again, as I kind of led off the podcast, if Shannon was going to play this game, my hot take was going to be that I think Illinois can win tomorrow. I think Shannon would have put us over the top. I think Purdue is again, no disrespect to Purdue. I'm not one of those guys. Purdue is a great basketball team led by a great basketball coach. But I think the way we've been playing, with the confidence level that we were playing and the offensive sets we've been playing with, that we would have figured something out. We would have been able to expose Edey and their defense on the other side. The issue now is if you take the top 8 players on the court tomorrow, let's just say top 10, that's fine. The 2 best players on the court tomorrow are going to be on the Purdue side. You're going to have Zach Edey, you're going to have Braden Smith. So the 2 best players are going to be on Purdue. Now, if Terrence Shannon was in the game, yeah, fine. You have Edey on one side and you have Shannon on our side. Now, granted, in my opinion, from 3 to 6, if not 3 to 7, best players are wearing an Illinois uniform. So that's where kind of the balance comes in. So ultimately, I don't see a lot of the freshmen playing. This game's way too important, and I do want to say this game's a lot more important for Purdue than it is for us. Purdue's already lost in Big Ten play. They lost. I don't know. I need to go back and watch this game because they lost to the same Northwestern team that Illinois just beat by 30 points. So whatever it may be, Purdue's already one game back. Purdue, Illinois play tomorrow, and the game is in West Lafayette. If by some chance Purdue loses this game, they're 2 games behind Illinois, and their remaining head-to-head battle is going to be in Champaign on senior night for Illinois, and they're going to be 2 games back. So this game is much more important for Purdue than it is for Illinois. What I'm curious to see is, again, we've had a lot of success over the last 3 games, but the 3 teams that we played are Missouri, who themselves, even before the game, I said, was not a very good basketball team. Fairleigh Dickinson, who, I mean, with or without Shannon, we should wipe the floor with them if we are the team that we think that we are. Although Purdue has some bad memories of Fairleigh Dickinson, so maybe I'm talking ahead of myself. And then we have Northwestern, who again I think is a solid Big Ten team. Pretty much every projection had them in the top half. I've seen them as high as top 4 in the preseason rankings. They're a good team, and Illinois literally wiped the floor with them. But none of those teams are close to what Purdue is. Purdue is, again, I'm giving all the credit in the world, the best team in the country, led by the 3 best coaches in the country in Matt Painter. So does this run continue tomorrow? Are our guys, continue? Again, it's somewhat of an advantage that the students aren't going to necessarily be at Mackey tomorrow. Is it as loud as it generally is? I don't know. From what I was told, the Purdue had lost their first January home game the last 2 seasons just because the vibes are a little bit different. The students are at home. So, maybe that's kind of an advantage to us, but, who knows what it comes down to. I think tomorrow night, we're going to all look at the box score. And in my opinion, not even going to bother looking at Edie's. 30, 15, 1 foul. 37 minutes played. We'll have fouled Coleman Hawkins out, Amani Hansberry out, Dane Danger, 4 fouls. It is what it is. The first 2 guys I'm going to look at are Jones and Braden Smith. If those 2 guys put on a clinic, they have games where, the same way we couldn't solve Kolek, then I think Purdue is going to win pretty soundly. I hate to say it. I don't think that's I'm not being negative either. It is what it is. I'm enjoying this run that Illinois is on. I don't know if it's just how long we can keep it going. I love this team. Absolutely adore this team. I think this team can still be the second best team in the conference. I just think right now the vibes are a little too high for Illinois, which is funny because I'm usually the guy on the opposite. I'm overhyping, but maybe it's just all the attention. I'm obviously consuming as much content as I can because I love Illinois basketball. But a lot of people, Greg Waddle from the Sleepers, legit said on his show today that if he had to pick a team that he thought was going to win the national championship right now, the team he trusts most is Illinois basketball. At wild, that's something. It's not something you would genuinely hear about a Brad Underwood team. I love our team. This means, I mean no disrespect by it. My hope is that we keep it a respectable score tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's if you have no plans on a Friday night, you have to be watching. If not, just for the chess match between Matt Painter and Brad Underwood. These 2 teams, we play good games against each other. or like we're 90 minutes apart campus wise. The two teams are led by two good coaches, and the teams are generally very talented. And last year Purdue was up really big, if I recall correctly, and then Illinois made a run at the end. Could it happen? What's going to happen this year? I don't know. I think Purdue's the more talented team. I do, but I think Illinois is playing better. Now, where does that meet in the middle? I have no idea. But my prediction now is Purdue wins. Let's just say by 8-9 points. I think the spread is 10. That did surprise me a little bit. 10's a lot of points, double digits, but that also kind of tells me that Vegas knows something that we don't. It's one thing for YouTubers and bloggers and content creators to say, Illinois is going to keep it close or Illinois is going to win. But the guys who are setting the lines, they tend to know what's going to happen. And they have Purdue as a pretty significant favorite right now. So we'll see what happens. I'm not sure if I'll have a post game tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see what the vibes are like. We'll see what the mood is like. But either way, it's, at least early in the season right now, this has the potential to be, Big Ten, one of the most important Big Ten games of the year, no doubt. So we'll see what happens. I did have a couple questions, and folks, when I tweet out, if you have some questions, just reply. You don't have to send me a DM because then it just sounds like no one's responding. Someone's asking me to respond to. There was a Terrence Shannon somewhat update. There was an Illinois account, which and forgive me if I get the details wrong. I think they had a significant donor write a note and ask the account to share the note, which basically kind of, for the most part, absolved Terrence of a lot of the accusations that were made against him. And of course, it got picked up by a lot of people, and a lot of people have comments one way or the other, either free the hashtag free TSJ, and the others are like, how can anyone take this seriously, blah blah blah. I'll be honest, I just I don't want to comment on it because I don't know. Like, this is way bigger than basketball, right? Do I hope Terrence is innocent? Absolutely. When I look at the details, does it sound a little, fishy to me? Sure. But, I mean, I have zero law experience. I have no idea. All I know is that if something were to have happened, either way, whether there's something happened or not, this is a very serious issue. And so I myself, I'm just going to kind of stay out of it. I'm not in the free Terrence Shannon Jr. camp because I don't know. Like, let's be respectful. A note can come from anybody. Anyone can write that note. I can come up with a note and say it's from the girl and saying this and this and this happened. It's kind of a he said, she said, and it's on Twitter. It's on the internet. You know how many weird things are on the internet? You can't trust anything on the internet. So I'm just kind of, I hope he comes back. I hope he plays. With the presumed innocence. If, things are found out and, things don't work out in his favor, so be it. I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury. I'm trying to stay out of it. And, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and end it there just because people get mad. If you have to pick a side on this Terrence Shannon thing, and I don't know. I'm just not going to. It's not my place. I'm going to talk about this team that's on the basketball court. These guys, those 11 guys on that basketball team, they had nothing to do with what happened to Terrence Shannon Jr. Like, no one contributed to that. They found out at practice pretty much when Brad Underwood did, pretty much the same time we did. So they were caught off guard just as much as we were. And they could have had two kind of reactions to it. They could have sulked. They could have, had a defeatist attitude. Oh, our best player is gone. Now we're going to struggle. Are we going to make the tournament? This and that. But that's not what's happened. If anything, they've all stepped up. They've all helped each other out. And we've had two of the better games we've had this season. One against our rival in Northwestern. So I'm just going to continue to support those guys, and I hope you do too. And to kind of circle back, it seems like we are supporting our teams, and I love that. And so, go Illini tomorrow, please, if you don't mind. Hit subscribe on this video. I know no one likes to hear that, and I know if you are going to, you already have. If you haven't, you're not going to. But I was looking at our data and the analytics. It said something like 88% of the people watching this video aren't subscribed. I'm not sure why. It's a little button. Just click it. Help us out, because the bigger the numbers in the subscription part helps us out. It kicks in that YouTube algorithm, sends this out to the masses, and helps a little channel like this. And it supports us, and it costs you guys nothing. So either way, I'll be rooting for the orange and blue tomorrow. I don't know where I'll be. I'll be somewhere out in the Chicago suburbs. So if you're going to be around, let me know. Send me a DM, and we can watch the game. And again, it's going to depend on the mood, what kind of vibes we get. If we get beat down, then I don't know if I'm going to be in the mood. I just want to. We did get a comment from Simeon Fuller. Simeon, I appreciate your comments on the channel. I really do. He says, I believe the Illini will win if we contain the Purdue guards, and I completely agree. I mean, that's kind of where I stand too. I think Edey's going to get his, and let him get his. I'm over the idea of complaining about him anymore. This is just what he does. He's a very good basketball player. He's the best player in the country. Refs just ref him differently. He doesn't need that help, but he still is going to get it. So don't worry about Edey's box score. It is what it is. Let him get whatever he wants. Contain Jones, contain Smith, make the other guys beat you. And if they can't, maybe Purdue can't. All right, that's it for me. Thank you again all for your support. And I might be checking in with you tomorrow night. Otherwise, you can find me at IlliniCast. You can find me at the Sunny V. I also have another venture I launched earlier today. You can find me at Big Ten Show, and that's for non-Illinois centric content. We're going to be kind of spreading things out, with all the Big Ten teams. So if that's something you're interested in, please support, follow, send this to your Illinois friends, send this to your Purdue friends, because I feel like they need to hear what I said at the early part of the show. And all right, go orange and blue.